me take you down.
There's an Irish proverb, and I picked this up for you, Claire, because you have an Irish background. Laughter is brightest in the place where food is good. Isn't it true? Who knows a child better than the parents? In fact, I think parents know their children 9 months more than the child himself or herself, right? And who knows a student better than their professor? So if I can request Maureen Leonard to come up here and introduce our chef for tonight, Chef Chris Kafcsak. Who knows Chris better than Maureen? Come on up, Maureen.
His wife is here. Uh-oh. Thank you. Thank you. So my name is Maureen Leonard. I'm the pastry instructor at the Hospitality Management Center. And we are honored to be here. This is really a fantastic gathering. I love that the community is here. And I would like to tell you that you are most fortunate to have this young man with you today. Mr. Chris Kafcsak is an alum of mine from Padua Franciscan High School, which he took great pleasure of finding my senior picture. He's only a decade or so younger, so that's all right. But nonetheless, he comes from the same neck of the woods in which I was brought up, which is nice to see. And we had him at Hospitality Management. He started at Tri-C, I think in 2011, I recall. And then he came through culinary, and he has opened up his own business, Nomad Culinary, and he has made us incredibly proud. He has employed more of our students from Hospitality Management than any other single employer that we have encountered. So he is an outstanding mentor. He works, and he very rarely has anybody leave him. So that should tell you a great deal about who he is, not only as a culinarian and as a chef and as a business owner, but as a person himself. And I couldn't think of anybody better tonight than to be Mr. Chris Kafcsak from Nomad Culinary. Please come on up.
So as Chef Chris is about to start, I'm going to borrow a quote that I read on these Amazon delivery trucks, and I'm going to borrow that. Before we get started, gang, caution. Today's event may cause happiness. We'll see now how happiness comes about, Chris.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, for the kind words, and thanks for bringing me out tonight. You must not have been able to get anyone else, so, it hit the bottom of the barrel over here. No, that's all right. I always like coming back to Tri-C events. As many times as you invite me, I'll just keep popping out like a cockroach. So, I love the whole topic of tonight, like food and happiness. I'm one of the happiest chefs you're going to meet in Cleveland. Because if I overcook something, I could always cook it down even more and put it in tacos. So I always have a way of selling something to the general public. But I think the food in general, it has a huge impact on your happiness, on your body, obviously. But I don't want to talk tonight as nutrition. I want to talk about just food and memories, and everything that can come up from that. And I think the most important thing is just having those great times that you're spending with family, you're spending with friends, you're celebrating, and it's going to travel with you throughout your whole life. And we're going to kind of, I'm going to bore everyone with a couple stories every once in a while, but that's one of those big things. I went to plenty of restaurants in my days, and I still am continuing to go. And I love the Greasy Spoon restaurant. I love the fast food restaurant. If you worked with me last year, I hit Taco Bell 46 Fridays in a row after feeding people a 4-course dinner. And it was fantastic. Pretty much the same menu item every time, but every time it was delicious. So, I love all those things. I remember my friend, we were going to Chicago, and we just get in, we go into this 3-course lunch at Blackbird in Chicago, and I have this caviar, and I go into the sturgeon dish, and I go into this wonderful, chocolate tart. And we're walking down the street from our 3-course lunch into a 7-course dinner, and McDonald's, Golden Arches, just smiling at me, welcoming me in. And I started crossing the street, and he goes, "Restaurant's down here, Graham Elliott's down here." I said, "Dude, big and tasty." It was fantastic, and it brought back memories of having, the fries. You could pick off McDonald's fries, right? You could smell them, you could taste them, You remember the Big Mac that you had, or the Happy Meal you had, or some memory that you had with your family. And I think that is one of those huge things that food has, is to invoke those memories, especially with the scent, especially with the taste. And it's all of those things. Now, I know when Chef Karen first pitched this to me, she talked about comfort food, because when I was at Deegan's Kitchen and Bar, I definitely did a lot of comfort food. But I think it's more than just comfort food. It's not just mashed potatoes and mac and cheese and braised short ribs and barbecue, but it's anything that can take you back to a time and place that you have a memory. So we're just gonna hurry up and bore you guys with some background. Hey, look at me. So yeah, I went through Tri-C twice. After Padua, I knew I didn't want to go to four-year college, so I came in, did a business course, and came back again to dabble in the culinary arts. So we did that for a couple of times and got some degrees through that. And we kind of jumped through plenty of hoops. I worked at a couple restaurants up there you might know of. A couple of them closed in the meantime. But the last one I was at was Deegan's Kitchen and Bar, and I was there for 3 years. We had a great time. I had a great crew, and we had plenty of shenanigans. From locking people in the cooler with live lobsters that they were terrified of, to jumping out at people at 7 o'clock in the morning and scaring the hell out of them. Always good times, but we'll kind of come back to a couple of these things. And yeah, there's a couple accolades up there. Won the first chili cook-off at Crocker Park. Won the first mac and cheese cook-off. Won the Liver Foundation 4 times against, that was an event with like 25 area chefs that all ran a 5-course dinner for 12 in the same room at the same time. And we have some photos of that coming up. So we have fun, and I take things seriously, but never too seriously. And then my wife loves to let people know that I'm the biggest Guardians fan. I won't know anyone's name, but I'll at least know if they won the night before. So I thought it was important to show things that we've done through the past, and you should always be learning from the past, and these bring back memories. So these are actually dishes, some of my first individual plates I've ever ran at some of the restaurants I worked at. The ones on the outside were 2 that I did at Crop Bistro and Bar back in the day. And the one in the center was actually my first pork special ever as sous chef of Washington Place Bistro and Inn in Little Italy. So I think there's always things to go back to, and we always go back to food that I've done and accomplished, to kind of play off of the successes from it and the challenges from it to sell new events and to bring all these flavors back to possibly sell to the next customer. Because you never know, if they say, hey, I really love this pork dish I had once, and it had root vegetables and it had this wonderful maple sauce, and I'm like, boom, got it. We did it, we had it, we tasted it, and we can kind of come off of those things and bring back memories for people, hopefully. This is my first ever large event. This is the first dish I ever did. It was an amuse-bouche. That's actually a coconut panna cotta with a pea and coconut panna cotta on top with a pea green salad, toasted coconut, and a lemon oil. We dropped the whole thing with a little bit of truffle honey. So we have fun. Going into seafood and things like that, it's colors, it's textures, and we hope that people like it enough that they'll remember these dishes going forward. This one we threw on because we had a bunch of tomatoes, right? And then I think since that, we've sold this like 30 times, right? It's just a stuffed tomato. It's couscous, smoked blue cheese, mint, basil, this lovely blue cheese tomato broth. And then we just topped it with a pea shoot salad. And then we can do things as simple as just, hey, we want to drop off breakfast because we have a Nike photo shoot coming into town. And it's like, all right, I'll wake up early. So I always like that. I always like the challenge. My wife hates it. I am a morning person. I will get up at 6 o'clock and I will be up and at 'em at 6:01. And I am going, right? It's like 0 to 60. She's a nighttime person. She needs her hour and a half in bed to get up. But yeah, we do everything from all of these small things. We focus on fresh food. I love the fries and the Big Mac that I mentioned earlier and that big and tasty, but we also love fresh food. So we do everything from that middle one It was like a parsnip puree stuffed ravioli. We make all our own raviolis. The one on the right is actually a rabbit terrine that we did. We were challenged for a restaurateur in Cleveland to, their chefs actually hired us to go into the restaurateur's house and do a 5-course dinner in his house. They were world travelers. They love traveling. So we told them, give us 5 countries they've been to that you think were their favorite, and we're going to do a dish from each one. So this was France. The dinner was in the fall, so we did this grilled pear, and we did this rabbit terrine, and we did like a Dijon mustard salad with a little bit of sherry vinegar on top of bacon lardones, and it was awesome. It was a great challenge to go into this person's house. They had a great time. We had a great time. We loved seeing, and they were like, "Wow, we haven't had terrine since we were in France." So it's always one of those great things. Garlic Festival, we won that a couple times. Always have fun. I wish they would have given me that big bulb of garlic, but that's all right. I'm still happy without it. I would have been a little happier with it. And then that chef's dinner that I mentioned earlier with the Liver Foundation. There it is. There's 3 tablescapes we did. Every year we came up with a different theme, and we won on each one of these. The first one was Nomad Culinary Under the Big Top. So we did a 5-course meal focused on flavors that you would find at a carnival. So, it started with like a curry peanut soup. Our lion 3-ring circus was actually lionfish that we had flown in from Florida. And then the 3 rings, we ended up taking delicata squash and putting the 3 rings underneath the lion. We had a great time. The one in the center was a play on classic books. So the menu was actually handwritten by my wife in multiple pens and markers on a library card. All different in each one, but people were picking off the book in the passage, and we did enough, well-known books that people could really relate to this passage. And then the last one was Nomad Under the Stars. That one we took forever to blow those balloons up. I really should have bought a pump, but hey, you learn from that stuff, right? But yeah, it was Under the Stars. So we did a 5-course like space themed dinner. Every one of the courses went and correlated with information that we know about a different planet. And then everything in between. So when someone said, "Hey, I have a gluten allergy, but I love lobster rolls," wonderful. I'm going to take that challenge. Top right is a gluten-free lobster roll. We did everything from the mayonnaise to the butter poached lobster. We did this wonderful salad on top, and it just brought her back to living in New England. The top left was actually just a couple weeks ago at the Tri-C event for the inauguration of the president. And that was just a cornbread with a bacon sherry vinaigrette on top. But all of these things we try to bring back to people so they have flavors that they're familiar with, and then we just jazz it up. Tri-C, like I said, has welcomed us back a couple times. So we were at the Cleveland Eats events both times. We also went to a couple of the other events and have been able to work side by side with some of the students. So this was actually, I think, one of the Cleveland Eats first time, the VIP dinner on the Friday night. So we had a great time, and some of these people still work for us, still pop in to events and things like that. I think right now we have the 2 full-time and a 12 part-time, 11 or 12 part-time right now. Still popping in and doing events and things. But, bringing it back again, what everyone could relate to a deviled egg, right? Everyone had them, good or bad, all right? You've had it. You either love them or you hate them. Someone brings them over for Easter and you're like, get those out of here. But, there's plenty of people that's one of those polarizing ones at weddings. They're like, yeah, we want a deviled egg, and the bride's looking at me like, but we do plenty of those. There's your deviled egg right there. It's great to celebrate. Banana split. We did like a bruleed banana over on the left. Pavlova was a challenge they wanted for the baby shower that we did. So Pavlova it is. You want something nice. You want something to look good. And we hope these things bring people back. So just plenty of things. Chocolate waffle, cheese and charcuterie. Everyone likes cheese and charcuterie. Everyone likes a good béarnaise sauce. I don't care how classic it is. People love a good béarnaise sauce. Beef Wellington puff on the right-hand side. It's nothing that you would actually see. We actually did it with a hanger steak, but all the flavors tied it back to a beef Wellington. So when you ate it, you were just transformed into, wow, I am having that Wellington puff that, you know, people take out at your events. The one that people put in the oven that's already closed in the puff pastry and you pop it in your mouth. It's like lava, right? We do it open face so that you don't burn the hell out of your taste buds. It's much better, much better. Hey, Megan, you're in this photo. Megan's one of my full-times. She's been with me for a while. This one is a Garlic Fest win as well. That plate is right there in the center. And we just did everything with tying a hanger steak to a caprese salad. So all the flavors that you would have from a caprese, but we also tied in other Italian flavors. So we actually marinated that hanger steak in pesto. We did roasted garlic chips on top. We made our own ricotta cheese that we folded in Italian black truffles into. Just fresh tomatoes. We have too much fun. Dishes and things. That one in the middle is vegan. I'm happy with it. I wish I had some butter, but I'll take it. You know, this past weekend, right down the center, our alma mater, we did 400 plates of brownies for Padua High School. It took all day. Megan hates doing the math for that one. It's like, Megan, I need 1,200 pieces cut very small. It was a wonderful time, wonderful time. Another tablescape. This one was the challenge for finding a dessert when we did board game night, family game night. Again, my wife made this wonderful bingo card that she stamped, and the bingo card actually had the menu items written in it. We did some big toys and stuff in the center. But what do you do for a dessert, right? So we did a sari board. That's our sari board up on the top right. The little clicker in the center, we actually did a white chocolate dome stuffed with a cheesecake, dropped into Spanish Marcona almond crumble, and then each one of the colors is actually a fresh fruit puree made into all the dots so that you had that board. That was an awesome plate, and everyone loved that plate. People took so many photos remembering playing Sorry when they were a kid, and that's all about food. You know, when you see that smile, and that's why I like doing catering, when you see that smile on someone, instead of sitting in the kitchen, you don't really get that feedback. The smile just sells it, right? You don't need the tip. Tip's already done. You love that dish. It's awesome. And these two, I think this is one of the later slides, or one of the last ones. These are both dishes that we did at Tri-C. I was able to go back for a dinner party. It was 5 courses, all cooked by Tri-C alumni that were teamed up with students. That was the dish on the left. It's actually a roasted New York strip loin that we sliced, we rolled, and we piped roasted garlic mashed potatoes down the center to kind of use as glue to hold that into a round shape. And we skewered it with the steak knife that you're going to be eating it with. Endive and asparagus salad on it. It had a wonderful sherry shallot and Dijon reduction. That was an awesome plate. I think we did it for $84 at the HMC. It's a lot of fun. I think also everyone hated piping those mashed potatoes and rolling them. I will say that I don't think any student is going to steal this dish. The one next to it was another event. I think it was open to 300. Student was able to come out to me. We never made pasta. I said, let's do a ravioli then. So we stuffed it with he's never used foie gras. He's never used truffles. So we did this foie gras and cauliflower puree that we piped into these little tortellinis. And we rolled them, shaved black truffles over them at the event. We had them flown in from Italy. And then just a nice parsnip chip next to it with a gremolata. It was an awesome time to show people and how to do it and how he can use these flavors and experience new things. It was an awesome thing. So now we're going to kind of go full circle and we're going to go back to my childhood. And it'll get us into the food demos. And they're going to be making some food over on the side of the room. And if you want to grab some stuff, we'll have some scallops over here. We'll have some pierogies over there that we made up. And please don't feel like you're going to be interrupting me. I'll just keep rambling on. But when I was a kid, I grew up with the Northern Ohio Food Terminal. right? So had everyone know about the Northern Ohio Food Terminal? One? Okay. Do you know it was the 7th largest food terminal in the U.S.? All right, so it's right there on Woodland and 40th. Now it is a shell of its former self, but it used to have tons of product going through, millions and millions of dollars, millions of pounds of fresh fruit and vegetables. When I was a kid, my dad used to take me out of bed at 3, 4 in the morning, and I would go down and he would buy produce. And we had this large produce company, and I will never forget the scent. It was like a tsunami bomb of strawberry scent when you walked into a cooler. And why is that? That is because that cooler would have 3 truckloads of strawberries in it. So this was before the clamshell. The clamshells, you don't smell them anymore. This is the open top flats, if you remember these at the supermarkets. 20 pallets per truck, 128 cases per pallet, 2,560 per truck, right, cases. You're thinking about like 10 pounds maybe per case. You're putting 3 trailer loads into one room, right? And then you close those doors, you close it up, you lock it up, and then they sit in there for 12 hours. And then we went in at 4 in the morning. And those strawberries all had that really nice row, right? They put them in meticulous order on top. So I'd have to think at like 4 years old, 5 years old, how to take a strawberry and make it look like it was missing. So I became a thief at a really young age. And I'm sure the people knew what was going on because my face was red like every morning, right? But it was a great time. So it tied me in, and it's that memory that I taste a strawberry, I smell a strawberry, and I tell my wife the same story 1,000 times. Like, oh man, the food terminal, there were all these strawberries, and she goes, I know, I could do the math. You told me this, you told me that, and she's so bored with it. But it's one of those things that the food brings you back to that memory. And that might not just be the food, it might be the photo. We showed plenty of them. It might be a place that you're going to remember something that might tie it back to food, but hopefully it puts a smile on your face. I know when I was in Asheville, North Carolina, they had a Woolworths, and it was closed, but the sign was still there. And I was like, Amanda, we have to go in this Woolworths. And she goes, what is that? And I said, there was one in Brecksville when I was really young, right? And they actually had the counter still there. And she still didn't know. And I'm like, they split this hot dog when I was a kid, put it on the griddle, right, with this cheap bun, and I got a milkshake. Do you remember? See? And you're smiling and you're laughing, right? And it is food that brings you back to these memories. And we were challenged, by another lady who her family was from India, and she said, my grandma, before she passed, she can't be at my wedding, she made this pistachio cake. And she gave me a challenge of making her grandma's pistachio cake. She didn't have a recipe. I never made a pistachio cake. I actually made something that I thought sounded good, and she loved it. She actually has ordered it twice since her wedding. It is her favorite cake. It takes her right back to childhood, and I think it's a beautiful thing. I mentioned as a chef, you gain happiness seeing people enjoy your food, and it's that celebration of seeing someone enjoy it and seeing someone just click. It's fantastic. And trying new food. There's successes. There's failures. Hopefully, you have more successes than failures. But it's that thing that you just smile at the end. Trying new food, experiencing new cultures. And then my wife brought up the ritual of food. Christmas cookies come to mind, right? My family every year, the same date in December, make Christmas cookies. Way too many Christmas cookies. But it's that thing that just ties you back. So the food can give you happiness in so many ways. Giving food, eating it, receiving it. We give gifts of food all the time. My neighbor every Easter gives me a nut roll. And that is just like we open the door, it falls on the ground. We love it, right? It's that knowledge of knowing it's there, and it's that heartwarming gift to give someone food. Not to bore you with one more story, but we were in Knoxville, Tennessee back in 2021, January. So it was still like that COVID era. And there was this huge snowstorm that came through, an ice storm. And we walked and we were sliding all over the place. It was like 8 in the morning. Everything was shut down, but this one donut shop. And we went in and we bought a dozen donuts. And there were just 2 of us. And we were walking back to the hotel.
and we walked by two guys that were sleeping. They were homeless, sleeping inside of a doorway. And I'm like, Amanda, we have to go in. We have to cut these donuts in half. And we walked it across the street again. And I go, hey guys, do you guys want some donuts? And they go, we never get donuts. I'm like, come on, grab some donuts. Grab whatever flavor you want. And they asked if they can get a second or a third. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And their faces were so happy to get that gift of a donut. Where we, they were great. They were great donuts, but they were life-changing to them, right? It was awesome to see, and I'll remember that for life. So is this mobile one on? All right, so we're gonna start doing some food. And again, please feel free to go over here and harass these ladies.
I'll pass it out.
Okay, fantastic. So yeah, we're gonna do two things. We'll start with the pierogi, start with dessert, and then from there we'll go into these scallops. So we make way too many pierogies every year. We're big crimping, and so we're gonna do some pierogies that we made tonight with a cheesecake filling, and we're gonna pan sear them in just some blended oil and some butter. And then from there, what we're gonna do, we're gonna toss in some cinnamon sugar. And then we're gonna let those sear up. We put a strawberry and white wine jelly we made, we're gonna put underneath with a white chocolate mousse, and we're gonna do a nice fresh strawberry, orange, and mint salad over the top. After that, we'll get into the scallops. Then we're just gonna sear, and we're gonna put a strawberry cucumber salsa over it. They're just very simple dishes. I'm a very simple cook. I know people call me a chef, but I just like to cook food. So we'll let this pan heat up. We'll start getting these pierogies going. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, if you want to tell a story, you smile a lot. I like you. Oh yeah. The Woolworth one got you. And then you're like, yeah, we're on it. So please, let me know. Raise your hand. There you go. Yes.
What is your Taco Bell menu, and what is your last meal in terms of if you ask me?
All right, Taco Bell menu. First off, you could change some things up. Spicy potato soft taco, right off the rip. Got to get at least one. I do like the Doritos Locos Tacos, and then beefy 5-layer. The beefy 5-layer is that one that they either roll it right or they roll it the wrong way. So you're either getting all the sour cream in one bite, or you're getting that beautiful one. So I think it's that roll of the dice that I don't know how it's going to be. That it's like that game. I definitely like the beefy 5-layer, but yeah, absolutely. Last meal. Man, how many courses? So I guess last meal, man. I don't know. That's a tough one. I think if I go out to a restaurant, I'm a sucker for a pork chop. I'm a sucker for a duck breast. That's a tough one. Actually, I'll say one thing. There's a restaurant that I used to go to when I was a kid. It's still open downtown, and it's fantastic. It's just that it's called Main Gate Cafe. It's on 40th and Woodland underneath the food terminal. So I think going to it reminds me, right, of going there with my dad when I was 3 or 4. And still, I have taken all my employees there so that they could try the food terminal food. And it's fantastic. And it's just one of those things, I'm sure the guy's cleaned his flat top. I hope he doesn't, because I just want to try 30 years of grease, right? It's just great. It's a good time. So I would say anything from Main Gate Cafe. So we got our pierogies. We just quickly dropped it in with some blended oil. We threw our cinnamon sugar in. That sugar will caramelize a little bit. And then we'll toss some butter in, just get some richness. And this is just an easy dough. This is the only thing we did with this is we made a warm water dough. It's 4 ingredients. It's salt, water, oil, flour. That's it. You guys can knead the hell out of this, which is awesome. If you overwork it, that's fine. You just cut it up and you put it into, you could use it as a dumpling dough, and you could start over. We've used this for Asian soup dumplings. We've used this for caldoleri, which is a stuffed bacon type dumpling. which is really good. We use it for our pierogies. We've used it for an empanada dough with just adding a little bit more oil. But something that you should definitely try getting down is a warm water dough. All right, so we got our white chocolate mousse already on here. I think it's that nice creamy element to it. Not that the cream cheese doesn't have enough of that, but your cinnamon sugar pierogi is going right on top. And then we have this strawberry and orange salad that we're going to pop on this. So what we did was we popped some Spanish olive oil, like nice grassy olive oil, to kind of give it a fatness, but also give it a different flavor as well. We have some fresh mint that we have in this as well. I have a touch of sugar, but nothing too crazy. Strawberries are actually pretty good today. So we're just going to pop this on top. And then we're just going to top it with some fresh orange peel. If you want a candied orange peel, perfectly fine. But I don't necessarily know if you need to all the time. You have enough sugar and sweetness in this. That's where we at. There it is. And if you really want to get fancy, we have these beautiful flowers up here that we ripped off in some petals. You're going to be getting them on the scallop dish. If you're allergic to flowers, please let me know. We've had that happen on a moving train before. It was awful. So after that, we'll get into the scallop course. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we start? What you got?
Recipes on your menu?
So I will definitely say I was fortunate enough to have all my grandparents alive when I was a kid, and some of my great grandparents, and I definitely took it for granted growing up. I wish I would have learned from my great grandmother what she did with food. We're Polish Hungarian, and I definitely remember a lot of the flavors that she had, and I know some of the items that she used to cook with, but I never paid attention. And it's one of those things, like if I can go back in time, that would be the thing. Like, I would ask my great grandparents, because how many people have ever had great grandparents, right? Like, I know a lot of my friends never did. And I wish I would have known that. My mom, a great cook, she fed 1 million of us in the house. The one thing that I put on the menu from my mom is this salami sandwich that we grew up with. It was a French bread that she would slice down like 3/4 of the way and rip it open, pop it down with salami, a yellow mustard and herb butter, tomatoes, banana peppers, and mozzarella, and then top the whole thing with mozzarella provolone and bake it in the oven. Right? So it was myself. I had 3 brothers. I had a sister. We always had friends from the neighborhood over. So this was her way of feeding like an army of kids with like 3 loaves of bread, right? So I actually had on my menus, and we do a lot of food for Major League Baseball. Mama K's salami sandwich is still on my menu. So every once in a while, someone will call me and be like, "What is Mama K's salami sandwich?" I'm like, "Let me take you back. Let me take you back when we were doing running bases in the front yard with the tennis ball." It was always good. All right, so
Chef, is this a cast iron?
no, this is actually just a stainless steel. These are nonstick, but yeah, we're just using stainless steel. These are all induction ready. So if you have an induction cooktop, I feel like those are starting to become a really big thing. I know a lot of our customers, when we go to home parties, are starting to let us know, like, "Hey, we have induction cookware." Gotcha, ready for that. I definitely think induction is going to be, you're going forward with that. I know New York just stopped doing gas, outlawing it, so they're just going to be a lot more electric and a lot more induction in people's apartments. So having an induction cooktop is definitely a good thing. I like cast iron, but I think for going out and about as many times as we do, we just get them roughed up. All right, so I got 3 sea scallops right here, and you could definitely use bay scallops. Bay scallops are the smaller ones, are a little sweeter. These bay scallops here, I'm just putting salt and pepper on them. I am not a white pepper fan. I know like a lot of people are like, "Hey, you gotta put white pepper on your fish." No, black pepper. No one likes white pepper. So I only seasoned one side of my seafood. It already, came from a nice salty area of the earth that we're really not going to add any additional, right? I think a lot of people get really salty seafood from that. I use Morton's kosher salt. That is the only salt. All right, Diamond Crystal, no. Morton's kosher salt. So you have iodized salt, like one teaspoon of iodized salt, which equals 1.5 teaspoons of Morton salt, which equals, so one to 1.5, and then 1 teaspoon of iodized is actually 2 teaspoons. You need 2 teaspoons of Diamond Crystal to get the salinity of 1 teaspoon of iodized. So I think Morton's, you get a lot more, more people can flavor and season things better with Morton's. I think a lot of people who use Diamond Crystal and don't make up for it get an underseasoned product. Nice hot pan. So these are all fresh scallops. We just got in a whole can of dry packed scallops yesterday. And we had someone challenge us with a frozen scallop and said, you can't sear a frozen scallop. You absolutely can. If you don't have the money or you have some just chilling out in your freezer, take them out, let them thaw out 100%, and pack them between really good paper towels overnight. What you need isn't whether or not they're frozen or not frozen. What you need is you need to have a very dry surface area. It's the same way of searing fish. So even our fresh scallops, we clean them, we take that abductor muscle off, and we pack them between towels, and we change those out daily to keep that scallop nice and dry. So these scallops are already in. I'm a one-side sear fan. I know a lot of people do the two-side. They make a little sandwich. I like one nice crunchy side of a scallop. And I like that because I think it gives it a little more texture contrast. So we're going to do all of these as just one side. And then we can just baste the other side and get it cooking. And then at the very end of this, what we'll do is we'll just flip these scallops over just to sear and close in that other side. And this is a great time right now if you wanted to put basil in, or thyme, or rosemary, and get some of that flavor in this butter. We got those nice seared scallops right there. I think scallops are also one of those dishes that a lot of people feel uncomfortable with. It's a lot of money, but it shouldn't be anything that you're scared of. Just gonna pop these scallops down. They should be a little soft, like a medium rare inside. And what we're gonna top this with is just a very nice, summery, light salsa, basically. So what we're gonna do is we have some red onions, some fresh strawberries. Even older strawberries, the more sugar comes out of them, the better. So these guys are pretty ripe today. We have some cucumbers that we dice small. So we have everything in that same way. One thing to remember about this is the moment you add the salt and pepper to it, it's going to start immediately leaching out water and pulling it from all the produce. So if you did this beforehand, like we have 2 mixing bowls over here. If you did this beforehand and they were just starting to sear them, they'd be putting soup on top. It's just going to pull all the liquid from your fruit and vegetables. We have that grassy Spanish olive oil. And then here's the controversial part with this one. Yeah, this is a big no-no in most of my days. We're going to do a smoked blue cheese. Cheese and fish and cheese and shellfish, unless it's a McDonald's fish sandwich, normally is a no-no. But we're going to put it on this. You don't have to, but I think it gives it a creaminess to it. It's going to give it a little more dimension and a little more texture. So the ones that June and Mark are searing over here have a little bit of this smoked blue cheese on it. And we also popped in some fresh herbs. So we did fresh mint, fresh dill, fresh parsley, fresh chives, and fresh thyme going on top. And then we also have a orange balsamic reduction. This is simply dark balsamic, fresh orange peel, and brown sugar that we reduced on the stove into this nice thick sauce. So There it is. Nice, simple, and done. These are all things you can do at home. Just tell people you made up the recipes if you like them. I won't say anything. Anyone else? Questions, comments, concerns, memories, food memories, food horror stories. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I just have memories. I have a pot that my mother used when I was like little, and it's she made corn on the cob in it. And every time I take it out, I think of her. It's got a dome on it, and I make corn on the cob, and the smell is so wonderful. It just brings back all kinds of memories.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. We always have the challenge. The one thing when people do tell us that memory that they want to have or something that they want at their wedding, we always let them know, like, hey, this is my interpretation of just you saying something. So I have to try picking and asking enough questions about the spice level and the saltiness and what it looked like so that I can kind of take just words and put it into a plate, which is super challenging. We always tell people, like, hey, I don't want you to be offended by me ruining, this pistachio cake that your grandma did. I've never had it. But we'll definitely take it under, and that's an awesome story. Having something like that brings back that memory. I mean, you were smiling the whole time that you were saying that story. That's an awesome thing to have. Yeah, that's awesome. Anyone else? Silence. Oh, God, what's up? So we'll do wine pairings. We'll definitely suggest wines with things. I'm not a huge wine connoisseur, so we'll definitely do some suggestions. We've definitely had a lot of people challenge us with wine. We've had a couple people do the bourbon pairings for a 5 or 7 course dinner. I think by the time the 3rd course came through, they were pretty much hammered and everything paired well, right? I'll just be 100% honest with you. They're like, yeah, it's just not best. I'm like, there you go. Like, heavy pour on the 3rd one, they're done, right? They told their friends. But yeah, I think the pairings, a lot of people can taste a lot of things. I don't have the palate with wine to really pick out a lot of flavors. I can tell you if I like it, if I don't like it, if it's dry. But I think when people describe wine and you hear words, you can start picking. You're looking for it, right? If someone says, "Hey, it says like a really crisp apple and a melon flavor," then now you're looking for it, right? And I think that's something that I've never developed a whole lot of appreciation for wine. I definitely can enjoy a glass or 6, small glasses. But that's one of those. We'll definitely do some ideas. But I think wine's also really difficult because we have so many clients with great wine cellars of wines I've never heard of with price tags that I can't even say because there's too many zeros. So it's definitely difficult to ask when someone asks us like, hey, can you pair a wine? We'll tell them what things we would suggest if it was a Sauvignon Blanc or a Pinot Noir. We don't want things to be masked or to mask our food. But to get into an individual wine, there's a few that I would definitely say, like Rosa Regale Sparkling Red is a fantastic one with these pierogies. We've done it in the past. And it's one of those, I know like Rosie's Wine House in Lakewood has it. It comes in a really nice little bottle. It's relatively inexpensive. It's like $25. But I mean, you can, by the time you do a sparkling pour for a dessert, you're going to split it among 8 people. It's nothing crazy. But yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyone else? You like that? Fantastic. Yes.
I come from a big family of cousins.
Yeah.
And one of the things we did is make a family cookbook.
Love that.
And, people whose aunts were already gone, but yet their daughters or their sons submitted the recipes. It was really great. We knew like each aunt, that was their specialty or whatever.
Yeah, I love that idea.
And it's a really good way to bring family stuff together. You can do them online. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it.
I definitely love that idea. I think that's a great way, and it's a great way to keep things going. I like that. You had something to say. I'm sorry. You want me to come back to you? Okay.
You can talk a little bit about how to prepare the food in advance and store it for after 2 days to.
Yeah. So like this food here, I would have kept all of my, so we cut all the fruit yesterday for that salsa. We just kept it nice and dry. You could pack it with some paper towels and things like that, but you want to keep things separate, right? So like the red onion's immediately going to start flavoring anything it's in. So individual containers, go out and buy some really small crockware or whatever that you want to pop in the fridge, or even some plastic containers, and leave everything separate. And you could always mix things last minute. So when we do a lot of events for larger groups, not knowing where people have us in some crazy spaces, right? Like, hey, we're going to put you in this barn. It's not going to have any running water. It's not going to have electricity. It's going to be March, right? We want hot food. And they're like, oh, fantastic. Thank you for thinking of me. Right? So like the scallops, that's one of those that we've seared off beforehand and we popped them on top of ice or like popped them right into a walk-in cooler. We just sear the one side. We wouldn't even baste the back. We just pop it right into a walk-in and cool down immediately. And that's one of those that we'll pull out a little bit beforehand to get up to room temp, and we'll blast in an oven just to finish them. And then we can serve them as an appetizer and things. So anything that you're doing, you definitely have a couple days shelf life on it. But you don't want things touching. So that same thing with that salsa, we added the salt and pepper at the very last minute before we were going to start topping things, because that salsa now is already leaching water out, right? And that salsa tomorrow is going to not be attractive looking. So I would definitely say anything you prep out a couple days ahead, you want to get cooled and shocked as fast as possible and leave it separate without salt. Yeah.
Great job, Chris.
Thanks.
I want to bring back a family memory. For years and years as a kid, Mom made city chicken. That's not chicken. That's a Cleveland thing, isn't it?
That is a Cleveland thing. Yeah, pork on a stick.
Chicken. I'd like to do that.
Yeah. You know what? I honestly will say I've never made city chicken. That was a staple in my house. My mom definitely put plenty of pork cubes on a skewer and breaded that stuff and fried it up. And I could tell you the side dishes it was with every time also was red skin potatoes and a electric griddle with caramelized onions with a little bit of butter. My mom never salted or peppered her food enough, so there was always salt and pepper on it. I'm gonna say it. Hey, I love my mom. She needs to learn how to salt and pepper.
I was Irish. Oh.
Pepper was in my house.
Yeah, and then broccoli. Broccoli was the other thing. Now city chicken sounds good tonight. You can't even find that on a restaurant menu somewhere, city chicken. Every once in a while, you'll see Fast Eddie's will throw it on a blue plate special out in Parma. And I think that's the only time I've ever seen it on a menu was Fast Eddie's for a blue plate special. So it's a thing that's dying off. We can bring it back. You can bring it back. Next time, happiness with city chicken. I'm throwing it right now. We're going to do it maybe August. We're going to sell tickets now. So, anyone else? Yes.
Have you ever had any like happy accidents? Anything that like kind of made you laugh or like you enjoyed because it either got like messed up or it ended up working or like I don't know something that was.
Happy accidents. I have happy accidents probably every day. Yeah. What do we have? I mean, things that worked out. Coming off top of my head, I have accidents, but they weren't necessarily my fault. Like a wedding cake getting water leaked on it. I didn't make the wedding cake, nor did I place it there. So let me think. Happy accidents. Wow. Man.
Like a weird flavor combination, like did you accidentally, so for instance, I had not so happy accident where a student decided to put salt.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no. And they tasted it, because I always encourage them to taste their food. And they said, wow, this is very salty. And I said, this should be sweet. And they used 2/3 cup sugar instead of 2/3 cup. Oh no. Or 2/3 cup salt instead of 2/3 cup sugar.
Yeah.
But that taught them a very important lesson. Yeah. To taste.
And label your containers. Man, I am drawing a blank, but do you have one that you're bringing up for me?
Anything like Like, did you ever, I don't know, like overcook the cornbread and that's how you found out to make cornbread croutons? Like, I don't know, stuff like that.
So, okay. Yeah, we definitely have figured out how to use a lot of ingredients on a lot of, so we used to do chef's choice dinners, right? You never had a menu. It was, you bring us out, we came out to your house, we did 5 courses, we plated and we served you. And it was literally anything that popped into my head that day that the grocery store had. And a lot of the times it ended up being a chef's choice 7-course meal because I bought way too much stuff and my mind just kept going. So like, not the croutons. We do make some cornbread croutons. Our cornbread is ridiculous. But we've definitely come up with some meals and some ideas. I'm trying to think. I'm actually drawing a blank. Megan, what do you have? Yeah, so we were out of breadcrumbs, and we were doing a wedding tasting, and our wedding tastings are super extensive. So we tell people to pick like 12 or 15 things that you want to try. And then I'm like, oh my God, they're going to eat all this food, which is already way too much food, right? And I'm like, I'm going to make this 22 courses. And we made this duck confit and goat cheese croquette. And I'm like, all right, we got to freeze these little goat cheese balls, and then we're going to pull it out. We're going to run it through just regular, flour, egg, breadcrumb. And everyone comes up to me and they go, we're out of panko breadcrumbs. And I'm like, oh my God, like they're just coming in. We got to get this. So we had graham cracker, which I think, Megan, I think that was your idea, I will say. So we ended up putting graham cracker on it and deep frying it. And then we ended up chopping it with like a blueberry chutney. So it was a 1-bite duck and goat cheese croquette with graham cracker flour and then a blueberry chutney. And they loved it so much we've sold it multiple times since. So that was a happy accident. Yeah, so now we have... that was definitely, I'm going to blame her. Yeah. I mean, so now not only do I have to stock panko breadcrumbs, but I have to stack graham cracker flour. But yeah, that was a good time. That was a good time. Yes.
What was the craziest event you've ever catered and what was the menu?
I will say a couple come to mind. We were challenged. Actually, I was sabotaged by one of my friends. They gave me this pig roast. And it was a fantastic pig roast. And this is at a barn. This is a true story. The barn with no electricity, no running water. They had outhouses outside. It was like April 18th. They wanted to do a Vietnamese pig roast. I've never done anything like that. So we did it. They came out for a tasting. They loved the food, right? And it was so intimidating because April comes in. It's like 30 degrees out. There's snow in the forecast. We have to put coals on top of this China box and leave it outside, and we have to cook this 80-pound pig in. So we get it probably 90% of the way. We take the coals off, we load it in the truck, and we drive down to this barn. And the best thing about this story is, thank God, this was actually at a tree farm, because we put 100 pounds of coal on top, and it wasn't heating this box up. We ended up getting trees and putting branches and sticks and twigs and logs. This thing was stacked up. I mean, it was like crazy. It was like a funeral pyre, right? And it was a completely different celebration. And these folks had all these individuals actually come from Vietnam, like wearing their military garbs. It was awesome to see because it was a culture I've never really delved into, and people loved the food. But if they would have known what we were going through outside, battling the elements. I mean, and where we were working had turned in from like frozen ground that was slick to just absolute mud pit, right? It was wild. Like our hands were numb. It was crazy. I'm pretty sure everyone absolutely hated their lives that night. But they were happy. I remember one guy, the best man, was dancing with the pig head on a plate. Yeah, that was not water he was drinking. But it was a good time. It was crazy for that. We've had a couple other ones. Oh yeah, April 1st. Remember that 65-mile-an-hour windstorm that came through? Yeah, so we had 2 events that day. We did an in-home party in Avon Lake for brunch, like 10:30 in the morning, and then we did this 100-person wedding out in Geneva on the lake. So I did both. I started on one, and June and Megan were loading in the other one. And it was nice, sunny, beautiful. And I go, wow, it got really gray really fast. And I'm like, all right, I have to leave. I left my wife to finish up the event. All the food was out. I have to fly down 90 because we have to get a tent built and anchored before this rainstorm hits. And so it's like coming up, right? I was going the speed limit, my speed limit. And then we get out to Geneva and we get this tent down the best we can, and we're anchoring it, right? It's like outside this barn, and we're anchoring it. We have 130 pounds of weights on the legs. What we really needed was like 1,300 pounds of weights on the legs. But we anchored it down, and this storm pops in, and we're soaked. It's cold. It's miserable. April 1st was horrible, right? It was like April Fools was us, right? But anyway, it was fine. And then it started like dying down, and then it started picking back up, right? And we're watching this tent. In June, you were underneath the tent, and all of a sudden, this wind picked this tent up with 130 pounds of weights on it when it was also like taped to a 500-pound oven, and launched this tent like 15, 16 feet in the air and twisted it like a pretzel. And so we cooked outside in the rain for the rest of the day. It was wild to the point. So people were coming in, and you had to drive by where we were cooking outside of this barn. And there was a modern art exhibit right there, right? Tents in the windstorm. So we tried breaking it down the best we could, like, but we couldn't. We had to set up the room. We had to set up the appetizers. We had to start heating up food. So eventually I gave someone my credit card. I said, you have to go to Love's truck stop right now and get an Allen wrench, set. And he's like, I don't know what an Allen wrench is. I said, go up there, ask him, I need an Allen wrench set. So they, like one person, like 3 hours of this day was freezing outside, taking apart this tent. No one asked any questions about it when they pulled in though. Did you?
One of the grandparents of the bride go, were you outside destroying the tent or were you holding it down?
Nice. Yeah, it was pretty wild. They had the power go out a couple times. They had to come in, bring in an emergency generator. We had that tent debacle. Everyone was soaked. But you know what? People love the food. That's all that matters. People love the food. So thank you.
Strawberry fields forever.